Book Readings with Miss Bernard. Hello and welcome to another Book Readings with Miss Bernard. Today is day 12 of our Black History Month series. On the 12th day of Black History Month, Miss Bernard gave to me another wonderful story. All right, today's story is Ida B. Wells, Voice of Truth. Written by Michelle Duster. Illustrated by Laura Freeman. What's interesting about this book is that the author, Michelle Duster, is Miss Ida B. Wells' great-granddaughter. So she wrote the book about her great-grandmother. All right, let's begin. The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. Some people refer to my great-grandmother, Ida B. Wells, as a boss. She was an educator, a journalist, a feminist, a businesswoman, a newspaper owner, a public speaker, a suffragist, a civil rights activist, and a women's club leader. She was a founder of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. A founder of the National Association of Colored Women's Clubs, NACWC, a founder of the Alpha Suffrage Club, and a founder of the Negro Fellowship League. She wrote, she spoke, she traveled. She challenged the racist and sexist norms of her time that often involved violence and terror. Although she endured enormous criticism and threats to her life, she never gave up. She fought for equality and justice for almost 50 years. Ida B. Wells was born into slavery in Holly Springs, Mississippi on July 16, 1862. At just 16 years old, Ida lost both of her parents and a younger brother in a yellow fever epidemic. Even though she was just a teenager, she assumed the enormous responsibility of taking care of her 5 remaining siblings. She started her career as a teacher in rural Mississippi, then moved to Memphis, where she continued to teach. Ida also began writing for church newsletters. She wrote about social and political issues at the time. One day in 1884, when Ida was in her early 20s, she was riding a train when the conductor asked her to move from the ladies' car to the colored car, which doubled as the smoking car. She refused and was thrown off the train. Rather than cower to the powers that be, she wrote about the incident in the newspaper and sued the Chesapeake, Ohio, and Southwestern Railroad. She won the case and was awarded $500, though it was appealed all the way to the Tennessee Supreme Court. Almost 2.5 years later, the ruling was overturned in favor of the railroad, and Ida B. Wells was accused of harassing the company. While still teaching, Ida became co-owner of the Memphis Free Speech newspaper and built up a following as a writer. She expressed her frustration with separate and unequal school systems and wrote about it, then lost her teaching job. So Ida got busy traveling around the area selling subscriptions for the newspaper. My great-grandmother's life completely changed on March 9th, 1892. 3 of her enterprising friends who owned a grocery store, which rivaled a white-owned store, were lynched. Ida B. Wells knew that her friends Thomas Moss, Calvin McDowell, and William Stewart were only guilty of being economic rivals to a white-owned business. The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. At the time, the common narrative to justify lynching was that black men violated white women, but Ida recognized that the murder of her friends had nothing to do with that crime. She realized lynching was used to keep the black community in an economically and socially inferior position. Ida exposed the truth about why her friends were lynched, urging black people in Memphis to boycott streetcars and white-owned businesses and to pack up their stuff and head to Oklahoma, which was a territory at the time. Even though the people from the streetcar company warned her to stop, Ida continued to speak out. While she was out of town in Philadelphia, her printing press was destroyed, and she was threatened to be killed on sight. She lost everything she owned and never returned to Memphis. Ida went on to New York City, where she worked with T. Thomas Fortune on his New York Age newspaper. She wrote pamphlets about the reality of lynching and started speaking publicly about its horrors both in the United States and abroad. In 1895, she married attorney and newspaper owner Ferdinand L. Barnett and did what few married women did at the time. She hyphenated her last name, becoming Ida B. Wells Barnett. She and her husband had 4 children together. Their youngest daughter, Alfreda, is my grandmother. Ida B. Wells Barnett was involved in the suffrage movement. She started the first kindergarten for black children in Chicago and worked to stop the racial segregation of schools. She founded and managed the Negro Fellowship League, which provided housing and job assistance to black men who migrated to Chicago from the South. Wherever she saw injustice or inequality, Ida raised her voice and did what she could to effect change. She died at age 68 on March 25, 1931. Ida B. Wells spent her life fighting for justice and equality. She truly believed that exposing injustice would lead to change. The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them, she said. Even in the face of threats and criticism, she refused to be silent. She refused to make herself small. She stood up and spoke out, and she made a difference for us all. The end. And in the back of the book is a timeline of Ida B. Wells' life. And another quote, "The people must know before they can act, and there is no educator to compare with the press. The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them." Whew. All right. All right, friends, this has been another Book Readings with Miss Bernard. I hope you enjoyed this story. I will see you tomorrow for day 13 of our Black History Month series. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.